Ready?
Yeah.
So ready. We have a packed episode today. Returning to our true crime portion of the show, today Miranda and I will be exploring the stories and circumstantial evidence surrounding one of the most famous murders in America. While Rachel's out of town on business, we've asked our friend Tori to join us to provide her physiological and actually more scientific conclusions on whether Lizzie Borden was truly capable of giving her mother and father 40 whacks. Thanks for joining us, Tori.
Thanks for having me, guys.
So without giving away your conclusion, could you tell us a little bit about how this project came about and what materials you used?
Sure. So in 2013, I was still living in Columbia, Missouri, and around the University of Missouri, I was working in the artifact processing lab for the archaeology museum there, and I had the opportunity to do some research under one of my favorite professors in the anthropology department, and I knew I wanted to do something on serial killers because I've always been super fascinated about them, and I'm not going to lie, Bones got me into forensic anthropology, so I wanted to do something with that. And of course, first I went to H.H. Holmes, but there's so little physical evidence left or even documented, there's nothing with my resources that I was going to have available that I was going to be able to do. And eventually, going through a Wikipedia of serial killers and infamous killers, I came across Lizzie Borden. And the nursery rhyme everyone's obviously familiar with just was such an easy research title right there, 40 whacks. So that's how I decided to do her. And then I started researching the autopsy reports, different physicals and descriptions of her height, her weight, and everything like that. And I decided that I had enough information to conduct a medical legal research project called 40 Whacks, which was trying to determine whether Lizzie Borden was physiologically capable of creating the damage that's recorded in the autopsies, specifically the bone damage, because back then autopsies took so long to take place. I think this one was about a week after the murders. Yeah. So they were in an advanced stage of decomp just based on Victorian refrigeration practices and stuff like that. So
they didn't.
Of which it was
basically
a giant black block of ice and sawdust. Especially in Fall Rivers, Massachusetts, being outside of Boston, they didn't really have access.
No, not so much.
So I focused on the bone damage, and also as a forensic anthropologist, my background is in osteological research and bone stuff. So that seemed right up my alley. So after that got approved by the department and my supervising faculty, I went on to design the actual experiment. And for this, I was going to use a series of human analogs, which just means a human stand-in. And those can be a variety of different things. For my particular project, I ended up with 9 beheaded pig heads. The University of Missouri-Columbia has a really extensive agricultural food science department that includes a on-campus butcher shop. And
that's convenient.
Yeah, and I reached out to them, and I got a phone call one day saying, hey, we have a beheading today. We're going to have 9 heads if you've got room for them.
Oh, my God.
So you can actually go to my Facebook page, and also there is a Facebook page for the project, 40 Whacks. And you can see pictures of the pig heads and garbage bags in the back of my Ford Explorer. I ended up having to ask the members of my roller derby team to offer their freezers to store the heads because I didn't have room for them. So they were all over Columbia. So I used that. Then I reached out to a couple of different archaeological professors and stuff to get a lead on vintage tools, and through looking at the court documents and replicas and stuff like that, I was able to find a replica axe that was pretty representative to the one out of the Sears robot catalog that is found at the Fall Rivers Historical Society, where they're like, this is the axe! So it was as close as I could get, and then I went about recruiting women who I didn't really focus on the age. I was more concerned about the height and the weight, because that's going to have more of an indication on the actual amount of force, the potential that's there, versus muscular training and stuff like that. And besides, a woman of Lizzie Borden's stature wouldn't have been very muscular, which meant I couldn't ask any of my roller derby friends.
No.
Because I was like, no, they'll murder the pigs. Literally.
They're already murdered.
Yeah, they're already dead, but they will dead and more. That made sense. But anyways, so I went through a bunch of classes and stuff, and I got some girls to sign up and volunteer their services to me to chop. University has a wonderful archaeology program, but lab space is incredibly limited. And during the time when the actual choppings were going on, there were campus tours going on the quad, which is where the archaeology department is based off of. So I wasn't able to do my actual experiment on campus. We did it in the lot next to my apartment, which made my neighbors love me. And the girls came, they signed a release form. This was all IRB approved. No human subjects were injured. But they signed off on the release forms, and then I had a really janky rig built, and it was a giant garden bishop hook that was anchored in on two sides with rope. Again, there's videos of all of this on the Facebook page. That we hung the first pig head representing the mother, who was murdered standing up. Initially, through my research, the first 3 or 4 whacks. After that, she would have collapsed to the ground based on blood loss, trauma, and just the sheer weight of someone coming over the back of you with an axe. We had the girls take the first 3 to 4 swings with the pig and head in the upright position, then we then dropped it down to the ground and had the girl either squat or kneel next to it and continue delivering the rest of the 19 blows. After that, the axe head was cleaned up to remove any debris or anything in case there was chunks of something stuck on there so that it wouldn't get in the way of the raw data from the next one. And then the second pig head would be placed in a seated position on a lawn chair that was metal, so we wouldn't hack it apart. And it was tied down so that it wouldn't slide apart. And the Addie analog, as she was being called, or Lizzie analog, was then told to hit that pig head 10 times. And then we repeated that for each of the girls. And then after that, I defleshed the pig heads. And again, due to lack of lab space, that happened in my apartment. As someone who has never eaten pork in their life, having your house reek of boiling pig head for me,
oh my god.
I started adding, like, cinnamon into the pot and stuff to make it, like, because it wouldn't destroy the damage of the bones, but at least would not smell. It smelled like weird Thanksgiving. Like, almost Thanksgiving, but not quite.
Thanksgiving gone wrong.
And so I did that. We did actually end up running out of pig heads, and so I did have to use a secondary analog, which was PVC piping, which is fairly compatible with the density of a human bone, especially in the skull. And I covered that with modeling clay in the depth of your skin and tissues so that it would still provide the same resistance. And a cool trick that I learned was wrapping it in cellophane to give it more of that, the skin tension that you get when you break the epidermis. So it provided a little more of that. Same round of hacking experiments with that, and then after everything was defleshed, we measured it and made my comparisons.
Oh, okay. Oh my god, that's so awesome. So let's see what happens. Okay, so before we get into Tori's substantially more reliable, I think, account of what might have happened and if she could have done it, we're gonna go through more of the circumstantial evidence because this is really what this trial was based around. It was all he said, she said. So everybody should totally interrupt me with corrections and opinions and stuff. I found, like, so much stuff I probably should have started my research, like, a week earlier than I did.
It's a black hole on the internet.
It is. Last night I started, and I didn't stop until roughly 4 o'clock this afternoon. So let's dive down the absolute rabbit hole of this case, just from, like, a storytelling POV. I should also say that I pulled these facts from History.com, a website called Irish Central, which provided some great insights into the complexity of the situation with the Borden's maid. Wikipedia, of course, like, come on. And I gotta get this out of my system before I go into grad school. And 2 articles, Rumors, Lies, and Alibis, How Newspapers Sensationalized the Lizzie Borden Murder Case by Caitlin Walters, and Lizzie Borden Took an Axe, History, Feminism, and American Culture by Anne Schofield. So most of what follows comes from these sources. So I'm going to start with, here's how the story goes of what happened, basically. On August 4th, 1892, in Fall River, Massachusetts, Lizzie's stepmother, Abby Durfee Borden, and her father, Andrew Jackson Borden, were brutally murdered in their home. It was a sweltering hot day, and the only other person who was home was the maid. Her name was Bridget Sullivan, who was washing windows, and she testified that she had laid down to take a nap just about 5 minutes before she learned of the murders. So the trial transcript accuses Lizzie of inflicting 20 mortal wounds upon her stepmother and only 10 mortal wounds upon her father. So basically that 40 whacks thing you heard is not true at all. It was 30 about total. The transcript also only officially refers to the axe as a sharp cutting instrument. They don't say it was an axe because they're actually not that sure. The official murder weapon has never been found. Basically, they have one on display at the Fall River Historical Society but they're not exactly sure if that was the one.
Yeah, there's like a disclaimer that's like, this is a act similar to or possibly.
Yeah. We really just have no facts. We have all speculation about what happened. Let's break down what happened a little bit. Abby, the stepmother, was the one I think who was likely killed first. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense to you, Tori? Okay. She was upstairs making a guest bed when, facing the killer, she was stricken by the axe on the right side of the head, causing her to turn and fall face first, then about 18 more whacks. When Andrew, the father, returned at around 10:30 a.m., from his errands or whatever, his key failed to open the door, so he knocked for attention. Bridget, the maid, went to unlock the door. Finding it jammed, she uttered an expletive. She would later testify that she heard Lizzie laughing immediately after this. She did not see Lizzie, but she stated that the laughter was coming from the top of the stairs. This was later considered significant because Abby's body was visible through the gap between the bed and the floor when climbing the stairs, only becoming hidden by the bed upon reaching the top. Lizzie later denied being upstairs and testified that her father had asked her where Abby was, and she had replied that a messenger had delivered a summons to visit a sick friend. Lizzie stated that she then removed Andrew's boots and helped him into his slippers before he lay down on the sofa for his customary afternoon nap. Actually, I think this was slightly before noon. Next, she informed Bridget of a department store sale and permitted her to go, but Bridget felt unwell and went to take a nap in her bedroom instead. So basically, Bridget was washing windows all morning, and she said she felt sick and went outside to vomit for about 15 or 20 minutes. Bridget testified that Lizzie had yelled upstairs for her after she'd gone upstairs to take the nap after about 4 or 5 minutes, saying, "Maggie, come quick. Father's dead. Somebody came in and killed him." The sad thing is, and this is from the Irish Central website, is that she sometimes called Bridget Maggie because that was the name of their previous maid. Now, I thought this was extremely disrespectful. Like, what's happening is we're already getting into an analysis of Lizzie's character right at the get-go. But some people believed, actually, that she purposefully called Bridget Maggie out of respect because during that time, Bridget met Irish maid. So by calling her Maggie, Lizzie overlooked the connotation, making Sullivan feel close to her. Someone said that Bridget adored Lizzie, and Bridget mentioned in writing once that Lizzie was always kind. So here's the first instance we have where one thing that happened could be condemning or saving of Lizzie. So basically, as Bridget said, Lizzie was the last one in charge of opening the screen door before Bridget went up to take a nap. She'd only rested 5 or so minutes before Lizzie called up to her to tell her about her father. During this time, Bridget says she heard nothing. No one entering or leaving, no sounds of a struggle, nothing. Once Bridget ran to town to get the doctor, she expressed concern for telling Mrs. Borden the news that Mr. Borden had been murdered. Lizzie said, "I think I heard her come in. Why don't you go upstairs and check?" And the maid said, "I'm not going upstairs alone." So I think it was like the neighbor lady or something went with her. So this is when they discovered Abby's body lying underneath the bed in her bedroom. So they were probably killed in the opposite order that they were discovered in. Mm-hmm. Police discovered a hatchet with a broken handle in the basement that looked like it had been caked with dust deliberately to seem as if it was unused. Then Lizzie was arrested because they really couldn't just find any suspect. Like, she was the most likely person. She was the only one there besides the maid. The trial for Lizzie started on June 5th of next year. It was a 12-day trial. There were 80 witnesses, not including those who were eventually recalled. And, of course, she was acquitted. And a lot of people don't know this because of the rhyme. Yeah. That they assume that, Lizzie she did it. Because the rhyme goes, she did it.
and I mean, honestly, until I had actually decided to do the paper, I had
you had no idea she got off. It blew my mind when I found that out. And it wasn't when I did research for this. It was a while ago, but I thought, oh my God, she actually got off.
Automatically assume.
So we'll talk a little bit more about that in a bit, of why she was acquitted and everything. But interesting enough, she lived in Fall River for the rest of her life with her sister Emma, despite the fact that she faced significant ostracism. So, the entire time, the town thought she did it. Some people did, some people didn't, but a lot of people, she just wasn't good news to have around, basically, anymore. So, Does anyone want to say anything about those facts, quote unquote, of the story before we move on to like evidence? Again, quote unquote.
I mean, I think a lot of it really speaks for itself. I mean,
yeah.
Especially like with the order and stuff. That's the only way that crime possibly could have happened with all the people, the players there would be that.
Right. So that's
one awake person had to go first, and
that's the assumption.
Yeah.
Like that's without saying that Lizzie did it. Now, getting on to evidence of her guilt, and when I say evidence, I mean purely circumstantial evidence. At the inquest, she had hinted that she had a strained relationship with her stepmother and that she believed Abby was just after her father's money. The father was worth $10 million in today's money.
Can I just say something? That seems weird that Lizzie would say that just because now her mother died when she was 2. Didn't she?
Yeah.
So you would think she would have a closer relationship with her stepmother.
Well, and actually, in my research and stuff, she was apparently very close to the stepmother for a considerable amount of time, and then just one day she wouldn't refer to her as her stepmother anymore, only as Mrs. Borden.
Yeah.
And stuff, and it kind of came out of the blue. She was very close to her because, like you said, she lost her mom at an early age.
Right.
So, and that's the thing. It's like, was she close to her? Did she think she was just after her money? I mean, which is it? Because you can't be close to somebody and also think she's just after your father's money.
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense. But also, there's some motive to do with the father. He was really rich, but he was super frugal. Like, the Bordens didn't have plumbing in their house, and they could have afforded plumbing. Like, he basically was miserly and made them live at just a little bit level of discomfort, enough to probably annoy the daughters. And the summer, this is a weird story, which almost seems made up, but it could possibly not be. The summer before the murders happened, did you get a brain freeze?
No, I said, who knows?
Who knows? The summer before the murders, pigeons had taken up residence in the barn. And so her father thought that these kids were trespassing to try to hunt the pigeons. So he killed them, guess what, with a hatchet. And this upset Lizzie because she had actually built a coop for them, so she considered them her pets.
For a second there, I thought you meant he murdered the boys, and I was like,
that's what
I thought first.
No, I'm so sorry.
That story. That seems pretty.
Oh, should I start that over?
She had built a coop for these little boys to live in.
You know what? This family is so normal, okay? So, after the pigeons were killed by the father, not the boys, that's a whole other rabbit hole. They had a huge argument. And so Lizzie and her sister, who allegedly did not like her father either, or the stepmother, they went on an extended vacation, which is what happens when you leave your family because you're mad at them, for about a year before these murders occurred. And when Lizzie returned to town, she stayed in a bed and breakfast for 4 days, so that brings us up to 3 days before the murders, before she came back. Did you hear this, Tori?
I hadn't heard that part.
I just don't know whether to believe it or not.
Yeah. I mean, it is documented that they did leave town and stuff. I just didn't hear how closely it was to the murder.
It was a year, she was only back for 3 days, a week in the town and 3 days at her home before the murders occurred. She donated, also, $555,000 in today's money to an animal shelter on her passing, and $9,000 to the upkeeping of her father's grave. So, I mean, I could kind of see the pigeon thing with how much she
I believe it.
donated. So, here's another sort of incriminating thing. There are references in the testimony to people, including Lizzie, feeling sick some days before the murder. Some have speculated that Lizzie tried to poison her parents with poison in the milk, but it actually didn't work fast enough, so she just went ahead and axed them.
Yeah, there was actually reports the shopkeeper said that he sold her the potion that can also have been used for cleaning, I think it was furs, not sealskin. But
that's the thing, he didn't actually sell it to her. I heard she tried to buy it, but he said, no, girl, that's not for furs. That's not going to work. He's like, that's going to ruin your furs. That's a really bad excuse. So she did try to buy a lethal poison a day before the murders happened. As far as the poison in the milk goes, a family friend thought that they left, like, mutton stew on the stove for a few days before. And remember, I said this is a sweltering hot summer. And the day the murders occurred, it was so hot. They left that on the stove for a few days and ate it. Now, I don't think they're stupid. They had an ice box, they said. So there's no reason for them to have left that stew out. Kind of leaning towards poison there. I don't know. She did try to buy prussic acid.
Yeah,
that's what it was.
Yeah.
I didn't research what that actually is, but... So that evening, a police officer and the mayor visited the Bordens, and Lizzie was informed that she was a suspect in the murders. The next morning, and now I have her name, Alice Russell, entered the kitchen to find Lizzie Borden tearing up a dress. Lizzie explained that she was planning to put it on the fire because it was covered in paint. It was never determined whether or not it was the dress she had been wearing on the day of the murders, because they started asking the maid this question during the trials, and they kept overturning the question. They kept saying, no, you can't ask that question. I don't exactly know why. But the judge or the lawyer kept saying, you can't ask that question. And they finally shut her up about it, because she was trying to describe the dress, but they never would have figured it out. And then things get even more complicated. So it looks pretty much like Lizzie's guilty right now, as far as believing what people have said. But also, the police didn't do their jobs. Nobody bothered to check her for bloodstains. The police did search her room, but it was merely a cursory inspection. At the trial, they admitted to not doing a proper search because Lizzie was not feeling well.
Yeah, she was in a fugue state is what they had it dictated as.
So they were subsequently criticized for their lack of diligence, of course. Then, she'd been prescribed regular doses of morphine to calm her nerves, and it's possible that her testimony was... I mean, come on! Yeah, I'm going to give you a good dose of morphine and then ask you about what happened.
To defend your honor
during that day.
Murder trial.
Yeah, and then she's giving, no, I was here, no, I was doing this, no, I wasn't doing this. She was saying just all these things that didn't match up. They did test the milk in and outside the stomachs of the Bordens, and they found no evidence of poison whatsoever, although... Perhaps the tests that day, or in that day, weren't up to date. They couldn't find all sorts of poison.
Well, there's also types that would have metabolized by the time they would have gotten around to it. They would have been absorbed into the bloodstream.
I know oleander doesn't show up. Nowadays, it won't even show up in the test. On that. The victims' heads were removed during the autopsy. The skulls were used as evidence during the trial.
And if you haven't seen the pictures of those, they're pretty baller. There's nothing like a good old-fashioned antique crime scene or autopsy picture.
Well, just before we started this, Nikki mentioned them to me, and I was like, wait a minute, I didn't even think about that, and I was like looking them up really fast.
You can just see the guy hold still. With it. No one can see, but I put the little carpet over my head and held up the little sand trap.
I had nightmares all night last night because I was researching this case, and it wasn't because of Liz. I wasn't picturing Lizzie Borden with an axe coming after me. I was picturing, I'm sorry, this is maybe really disrespectful, but I was picturing, like, her father with his totally emaciated face, just, like, walking towards me. Ugh. God, I could not get it out of my mind once I saw those autopsy photos.
Yeah, they're... Not for the faint of heart.
No.
The brownie doesn't get rid of a whole lot.
Girl, you calling me faint of heart? Okay, I am.
I didn't feel like that. Nikki is very brave.
Oh, so brave. So when they brought the skulls in for not for the autopsy
case,
for the trial, that's the word I'm looking for. Lizzie fainted when she saw them. Or did she? There's a lot of sensationalism surrounding this case. Once the jurors and the judge and everyone in the courtroom found out the media was eating this up, the trial became a performance.
It was the O.J. Simpson case of her time.
It was I mean, nothing this interesting ever happens to us. So let's just milk this for all it's worth. So here's what somebody said in an article about how convoluted this whole thing is. Either Bridget Sullivan or the police deliberately lied about the hatchets. Either the police or the marshal lied about finding the handle. The police captain or police officer lied about the wrapping of that hatchet head. This was from the Galveston Daily News. Contradictory stories escaped the lips of almost every person who sat on the witness stand. Whether these were deliberate lies can only be theorized because much of the trial and the case itself was based on circumstantial evidence. Loads of people might have wanted her father dead, because he was worth $10 million and he didn't make friends rising up to the position he was in. So there's all those things that potentially don't make Lizzie guilty, but who knows if those are true either. Another thing, and this is a thing that hugely contributed to the media and the jurors, 12 male jurors, let's say, and I assume a male judge, like it wouldn't be a female judge back then.
I think that would have trumped the murder situation. Woman tried for murder, but in bigger news,
yeah, exactly.
Tried by a woman.
Tried by a woman. Oh man, they would have had a field day with that.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, her being a woman affected everyone's perspective. And it both affected them thinking she was guilty and that she was innocent. Mm-hmm. She was acting too masculine. She was acting too feminine. She, whatever. She didn't stand on her head and do a trick, whatever it was. So most of the officers who interviewed Lizzie reported that they disliked her attitude. Oh, boo-hoo. Oh my God. Some said she was too calm and poised.
Like, giving her morphine.
Could you be in shock? And also, she's on drugs, dude.
Yeah.
I'd be super chill if I was on morphine every day.
I would be awake.
Yeah.
Well, she was asleep, so obviously she committed these murders. The press, from the moment of the murders until the end of the Superior Court trial in Massachusetts, constructed a masculine version of Miss Borden to symbolize her guilt, and a feminine version to symbolize her innocence. Some newspapers swayed the audience to visualize Miss Borden, an average-looking woman with an above-average inheritance, as masculine. Others, like the Daily Picayune, illustrated her as a very pretty woman and quite fleshy. Like, who gives a shit? She's on trial for murder!
Almost always depicted as being quite plump.
Yeah, in her photo, you can tell she's got a soft countenance,
But I mean, she wasn't as big as they make her out to be, especially from a weight standpoint.
But no, she wasn't the exact image of a woman that we needed her to be.
Yeah.
So she's guilty, or oh no, she is a woman, or she exhibited some feminine traits, so she must be innocent. So with these connotations, the press tampered with the idea that a masculine woman could be capable of such a crime, whereas a feminine woman simply could not be. And then there's a reporter. I would just love to applaud, because back then he said, perhaps if Lizzie Borden would rave around and tear her hair a little, the authorities would let her go. A girly girl of the fluffy angel variety would not even have been suspected. What happened was basically she was quite composed as a person, and a lot of people said this, that as a person of her class was expected to be reserved and never show emotion, and she on her own wasn't a person likely to just air out her dirty laundry or say, I'm sad and I'm upset. So she was quoted, I think, as saying, I am who I am, basically, and I've always been expected to be this way, so I'm not going to change it now.
Because keep in mind, even though, her father lived as frugally as he did, she was still a good little society girl. She still knew what she was doing. She was still expected to behave in the manners of the time period. So even if she was a little masculine, she was still playing the role that she's supposed to, and people got this because she wouldn't stop it.
Yeah, she was heavily involved in the church and everything. She was the perfect society girl. But she just wasn't quite what the media and what the jury really wanted to see. So, other things to add before we go on to theories of who it could have been and why?
I feel like you covered everything.
I found
it in my paper.
No. This is the thing is, with your paper, it's forget all that bullshit. Could she have done it? Could she really have done it? Whether or not the maid said it, or her fucking neighbor said it, or somebody else said it. But there are some great theories.
There are. They're pretty spectacular.
So, as you said, Lizzie Borden committed the murders in a fugue state. Probably spurred on by molestation. Her father basically molested her, is what they're saying, and that she just one day just snapped. And she couldn't have even, it was a dissociative state, and she couldn't have even remembered doing it if she had done it. That's one theory.
Okay, I just want to say, I feel like every time a woman is on trial, somebody always has to say she was molested by her father.
Yeah, that's always at least one theory.
Like, even Casey Anthony said that, and it was never proven.
Yeah.
It always comes up.
And based on, like, the reports and stuff with her actual relationship with her father, it seems highly... I mean, we could be wrong. It happens in the weirdest places. It happens where you would never expect, but just from the accounts and stuff and the way she spoke of her father, you never really got that image, because she did love her dad very dearly. Saying as dearly is questionable given the results, but...
Right. Okay, next one is, thanks to novelist either Ed McBain, mystery novelist, or Evan Hunter, I couldn't find who it was. There were two different sources that claimed two different things. There was a lesbian tryst with the maid, and her mother caught her, and she killed her with a candlestick. That was part of it. And then she just killed her father. But, I mean, I feel like this isn't... Like, when her father found out, they were saying her father found out after she killed the mother, and he reacted the same way. But he was, like, obviously asleep when that murder was committed.
Yeah, there were no... If you look at the crime scene photos, there's no signs of a struggle or anything like that. He was down for the count before he got hit.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't feel nothing.
Abby stood a chance if she could have gotten away. There was nothing. There's nothing anybody could have done for that dude. He was done for.
Right. No, he did. And if that was the way I needed to go, I could do it. If if I was asleep, whatever.
Face down, too, so you don't even see it coming at all.
This is my favorite one. The maid really didn't want to clean the windows that day.
I like that one, too.
Like, she was angry because she was told to clean the windows by the mother on a really hot day, and she just snapped, which just doesn't make any sense to me. But someone had said, and I don't know if I've said this on this recording yet, someone had said that if Lizzie Borden had the opportunity to commit these murders, Bridget Sullivan had the opportunity to commit them too. So you can't discount her just because you don't see the motive there, like... I mean, because there's no evidence, so it's all speculation.
Yeah.
Well, and I thought I read online that she was kind of looking around for other jobs too, but they treated her very well. She apparently had Sundays off. And she was very well treated. She was paid very well, but she was still looking for somewhere else to work.
They didn't even make her do all the chores. Apparently, like, Lizzie and Emma's jobs were making the guest beds and stuff, and she would do, like, the washing and ironing and the cooking and stuff. And so they did still split up the chores even though they had a maid. And anything she had said was good about, like, she never tried to directly blame Lizzie. But apparently someone said that on her deathbed she confessed that she had changed her testimony to protect Lizzie. And that's the only thing I could find. So... I don't know if, like, maybe she knew what was going on, like something really bad was going on, and she just looked the other way, or if she helped, or if she had nothing to do with it. I don't know.
And what's interesting, and I could be wrong, is Lizzie never ever made it sound like, ever alluded to that it was Bridget in any way.
No, she never turned the tables.
Think, if you had an out, take it. I mean, because I think it would have been very easy for her to turn the type of town that Fall Rivers was, it would have been very easy to turn them, it's the bad egg maid, it was a nightingale.
Right, you could have said, like, with her position in society, she could have easily said, it was that no good Irish servant, Yeah.
Blame the immigrant.
Yeah, blame the immigrant. It's what we do. It's America, right? Tales all the time. So then there's one... potential illegitimate son trying to extort money from dad. Quote, 2 witnesses, Dr. Handy and Officer Hyde, reported seeing...
I'm sorry, who named these people?
Hey, Dr. Handy!
Did Universal Pictures also cast the community of Fall Rivers?
They did. This isn't even real. They just made it up because they were born.
Yep.
They reported...
Sorry, that's what I found in my paper, guys. Spoiler alert.
None of it was real. None of these people were real.
Scripted.
So, Dr. Handy and Officer Hyde reported seeing a man... Okay, now, if you're going to commit a murder... reported seeing a man slowly walking toward the Borden residence just moments before the murders. I saw a medium-sized young man, very pale, with eyes fixed on the sidewalk, passing toward the south, said Dr. Handy. No, I can't stop laughing. In the Galveston Daily News, he was acting strangely. The strange man became known as Dr. Handy's wild-eyed man, but the but the investigation ended suddenly after no other evidence materialized.
I like to imagine that he became a folklore. And watch out for Dr. Handy's wild-eyed man. He might come and snatch you out of your bed while you sleep if you don't eat your vegetables, kids.
Dr. Handy was just bored. Like, no one was sick that day.
It was too hot to be sick.
It's too hot. No one wants to go to the doctor. So faithfully, in fact, did the officers search for the stranger, all the while neglecting, if it may be called by that name, to follow more plausible clues.
Oh.
There's 2 more, I promise. Just 2 more.
Oh, please. These are awesome.
This one's good, too. The sister, Emma, who was out of town at the time, developed an alibi where she sneaks back to commit the murders from the town she was in. It was about 15 miles away. Returns to the place she was supposed to be all along, and then receives the telegram about the murders.
Which, I mean, with a good horse, realistically, it's plausible. But again, really, really kind of dumb and unlikely.
I didn't know. And then, so the night before, their uncle had stayed the night, and he was the one who had stayed in the guest bed that Abby was making while she got murdered. So I just wrote, the uncle, just cause. Because he was there the night before.
Yeah. And he seemed to suspiciously disappear pretty quickly.
He did, but
it was pretty early in the morning when the murders happened. Like, not early, but early afternoon when it happened, that if he had been a guest, that he would have taken off that fast.
But they never saw this uncle. Like, why? What if the
now?
uncle was actually the Axeman of New Orleans?
Yes!
Oh, my God.
I'm on board. Although this was back before his jazz days.
It was before him, wasn't it?
Well, no, but he's immortal, so he's a spirit. It was back in his...
But the Axeman was real.
Oh, yeah, I'm thinking of the...
Like American Horror Story.
When I keep forgetting he was a real dude.
When I think of the Axeman, I think of that actor, though. Like, that's who the Axeman is.
Totally what he looks like. In my head, that will forever be.
So, who do you think it was? Okay, Tori.
So, my research did not take into consideration the morphine, because morphine can have different reactions with different people. Some people, it mellows it out. Some people... they kind of freak a little bit, so I cut that out. It also does not take into consideration corsets. Given the time period and the location, because they were more in a country setting, she wouldn't have had a large amount of petticoats and stuff on, but she still would have had some. Especially in the heat, she would not have been super over-encumbered, but just like what Nikki was saying earlier with how, like we said, she was a very good society girl, she would have been dressed, especially by this time of day. But I did not take that into consideration, just because... it's a very low-budget experiment. But anyway, so, given the damage and everything that was done to the human analogs, disregarding those 2 factors, she totally could have done it very easily. In the autopsy, and those pictures look really gruesome, but it's multiple wounds on top of each other, so where she was hitting already had a weakened density once after she hit it once, and to only be varying within 3 to 4 inches, which is what I found the blow pattern to be, it really wasn't that difficult to create those deep gashes and that amount of damage in blood spray. It's totally plausible, and I honestly, I think she done it. She done it.
Wow.
Yeah.
So do you think, like, there's a difference between a hatchet and an axe, right? A hatchet is like a hand thing. You hold it in one hand.
Colloquially, there is no difference. If you're being specific, then yes, an axe is like what a fireman uses to chop open the ceiling, and a hatchet is a hand tool that is so primitive that we have rock versions of it.
Right.
There are versions of that.
So they could have been used interchangeably for...
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say. In the media or to people, I mean... depends on where the paper would have been printed. Like, in a more rural area, they would have been more specific about the differences, but who knows what media in Fall Rivers was putting out. But it was probably more likely a hatchet, given the size of the blows. There are 1 or 2 isolated marks that don't have multiple wounds on top of them, and it's about a 3 to barely 4-inch size incision on the face. So it was a shorter object. There's no way it could have been a candlestick. That is That's not a thing that would be possible. I mean, even if you want to say, sure, well, so for this case, we will say that they used the candlestick on the mom and the axe on the dad. Still no possible way. There is, unless she found some possible way to break the candlestick and create a 3 to 4 inch long serrated edge, wasn't going to happen.
No. Mm-hmm. So do you think she thinks she did it?
I do. Based mostly on the evidence with the relationship with the stepmother, how it did change, and with how she became agitated not only towards the stepmother, but towards the stepfather with all the growing concerns with money and inheritance and everything like that. In my opinion, I think Lizzie was not happy anymore living in that particular lifestyle in Fall Rivers, and given her station and the amount of money on the line, she couldn't just pick up and leave. Mm-hmm. And so she started trying to convince her dad that the stepmother was after his money, because that was totally a well-documented MO of hers. She tried to convince him that she was after the money, the dad wasn't having it, and she realized that she wasn't going to get the mom out of the picture, the dad was never going to let go of it. So the next best thing was to kill them both and laugh all the way to the bank. But she did get a good chunk of his money, so.
I mean, she got, I can't remember how much she got.
Yeah, I don't know, it was...
But it was a lot.
Yeah. It put her on, like, Paris Hilton at the time. If she hadn't been ostracized. Although, depending on the day, Paris Hilton's also ostracized most days, too, so who knows.
I wonder why she didn't leave, since she was being ostracized. I mean, why stay?
If you're a sociopath, you don't give a shit. If she was a sociopath, which is a whole other conversation.
I think that her staying was a sense of guilt and duty to the town, and where she felt, she was like, well, I made a mistake, I can't leave now, and...
She obviously exhibited signs of caring about her maid, so that doesn't, I guess that it doesn't seem to line up. But yeah, that is kind of weird.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Even though, I mean, there's all that guilt. But, I mean, what can they do about it? I suppose I would be concerned about the town coming and...
Lynch mob?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Burning my house down or something, you know?
Yeah. That's not what society folks do to deal with problems.
Well, okay, so what do you think, Miranda? Do you want to take
about what?
Do you want to take a devil's advocate position and say that she didn't do it, or?
I'm not so sure that I can. Right. to be honest, there's a lot of evidence against her. I'm not fully convinced that the maid didn't know something, or the maid didn't have something to do with it.
Yeah.
I don't see how that's possible. I mean, how could she be upstairs? You can't. Okay. The only person I know that can fall asleep in less than 5 minutes is my mother.
Asleep, she said.
How did she not hear that? Because I feel like it would be...
Yeah, at the very least, you would have heard the body hit the floor.
She said she didn't...
And that would be a loud sound.
Yeah.
Mrs. Borden was not a petite lady.
Oh, no. She said she didn't get a chance to fall asleep, even. Like, she had just laid down, and then all of a sudden...
Well, and
I mean, the timing is
The timing and stuff, she wouldn't... So when Bridget went upstairs to take a nap, the mother would have already been dead, according to the timeline.
But how would she have not seen her
body?
That's
what I was just going to say, that Bridget was allegedly puking outside or getting fresh air or whatever her flimsy excuse was, and ran all the way upstairs to the servants' quarter in a New England-style home. So that means you have to go past everything to get to the servants' quarters.
And they said there was hardly any hallway, basically. It was just all crammed together.
Yeah, it was a very typical style house of the area. There's no way she could have gotten up there without seeing it, unless the door was closed. That is a possibility, because the crime scene was so disturbed and everything like that, there's no way of really knowing whether the door was open or closed prior to the discovery of the body.
Right.
I don't know, I'm still not convinced that she didn't know.
I
just have a feeling, like, I don't know, it just doesn't...
Even if it wasn't like one of those things where she wanted to know, she somehow found herself knowing and made the decision to either keep it for herself or wasn't allowed to say it.
Right.
But I agree with you, she totally knows something.
Yeah.
That woman has some secrets to tell.
Like, based on what I've read, I think she did it, but... I just don't know how much to believe of what I read, because this is like Christmas for this town. Mm-hmm. They all want to get on the witness stand and say something, and none of it matched up.
Right.
And if I had to pick one unsolved crime to know what happened, I would want to know this one, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because, I mean, she didn't really leave a whole lot of clues. I mean, even in the autopsies and stuff, I mean, even the most careful killer out there in modern day and stuff, or slightly more recent history, they leave something. You figure, even if you don't realize it until way, way, way after the fact, sooner or later you can identify it and figure out what's going on. With her, like we were talking about with the poisons, they were using a lot more natural poisons, which don't show up on scans and stuff like that. They didn't have scans back then. They could have metabolized, again, because they're organic. And like I said, if the handle doesn't fit, you must acquit. And she had dainty little hands.
I wonder, is there even any possible way that somebody could have gotten into the house without breaking anything? Because I haven't seen much of what the house looked like.
From what I heard of Bridget's testimony, is that, like on this house was built in 1875. The screen door has a hook, and that's the lock. Yeah. You just hook it, and that's it. I mean, you could break that with a hatchet without hearing it.
You could need to break it.
You could just you could unhook it from.
I've done it. You can stick a screwdriver in and pop it. It's super easy to do.
Like a stick. You could even just use a stick.
Yeah, something long and skinny. And also just with the way the house is laid out, there would have been blind corners and stuff. You would have heard someone enter. I don't know if they were known for locking their doors and stuff.
They were.
Like that.
The whole first part of the testimony that I heard was them asking each other who locked the door all morning. It was like, somebody's going out, lock the door. And that seemed weird to me, because I felt like in a kind of rural area where they seem to be, why would they be so obsessed about locking the door?
Especially in a small town where you kind of know everybody.
Everybody knows everybody.
Yeah, it kind of makes it clear that Mr. Borden did have enemies. The family clearly was afraid of something.
Either that,
and Lizzie was already back in the house by then.
Right.
So
either that, or like Bridget's testimony made sure to talk about who locked the door.
And I mean, it does with the lock being jammed when they allegedly when Mr. Borden tried to get in. Again, that's only according to Bridget's testimony. To me, that says that it is totally possible that the front door didn't get locked. Someone came in and then jammed the lock because they knew somebody would come behind them, and even if the door was locked, they'd still come in, because that wasn't unusual for the family, but having the jam would have caused a problem.
I just don't know how somebody else could have gotten into the house without anyone hearing. Yeah. The murder seeming to take place so well timed, it just doesn't make any sense.
Not to sound sexist or anything, but the precision that this stuff had to be executed if she did do it, that it's too well organized. I mean, with the timing of I kill my stepmother, I send the maid for a nap, I kill my father, I disturb the maid, and all in the same time, making sure that she was gone when the police inspector initially showed up, giving her time to like chill out from the adrenaline rush of just hatcheting her parents to death. It's just too well timed. I mean, like, it's very clearly not a break-in or a crime of opportunity. Like, she knew. Whoever it was knew what was going on and had to be very intimately aware of the workings of the Borden household in order to come in and out like that.
Yeah, you'd have to know the layout of the house and where everybody was. And her, like, you could totally see her lying about her mother going out. Because how would, in a small house, I don't know if it's a small house, but in a house like that, how would you not know your mother was there?
Right. And that was
she would have said, I'm going out.
Yeah. And that was the time of calling cards. And there was never a card found for either a messenger or a card asking for her mother to come with me, and it would be very unlikely that Mrs. Borden would have brought it with her to go visit a sick friend if that was the case. And they wouldn't have thrown it out either. Those usually collected dust in the cups by the door forever.
Yeah, like I'm more and more, just because of the bare facts of it, thinking it's her.
I do too.
So a lot of people are now, like today, saying, does it matter if she did it or not, because Lizzie Borden has transcended the facts of her case to become a sort of cultural icon, and we use Lizzie Borden and her parents as archetypes and as vehicles for problems in our own society and stuff like that. So people are less curious about whether or not Lizzie did it, although I am. I really want to know whether she did it.
I'd love to be able to find out one way or the other. That'd be great.
Yeah. And so many novels and movies and plays even have been done about her. So.
I think at this point it doesn't matter. I mean, any sort of justice that could have been served
everybody's dead.
Yeah, and the Borden family does not. I think there might be one or two distant relatives of the Borden family still out there, but it's not like they have a giant bloodline still going on. Mm-hmm. So as far as that goes, it doesn't really matter. And Lizzie's long since gone, so her honor, and even if she was vindicated, it wouldn't affect anything because of the pop culture phenomenon.
I kind of feel like also, even if somebody said, we found out and we proved that Lizzie Borden didn't do it, then no one would believe it.
Mm-hmm. No one would care.
It's so deeply ingrained in our culture now. It's like, no, she did it. Like, that has to be a lie. Yeah. Because it's like when somebody said they found out who Jack the Ripper is. Nobody's going to believe that. Because
skeptical.
Yeah. It was funny because Patricia Cornwell, a while ago, she wrote that that true crime book about Jack the Ripper, case closed. And I was like, that's bold, girl. Yeah, I don't think you did that. I really don't think you solved it. There are things that happened so long ago that... Oh, I had a question for you, Tori, because my mom brought this up while I was researching earlier.
Yes.
Did they or did they not do exhumations of the bodies?
As far as I know, they have not.
Okay.
I didn't hear about any of that. The only data that I had directly relating to the bodies is the initial autopsy report, which is a total pain in the butt to read with modern medical dictionaries.
I saw the autopsy report on the Historical Society page, and it just lists a wound, 3.5 inches wound, 3 inches to the left of the nasal cavity or whatever.
It's really great for your listener. They can totally tell what I'm doing.
What?
Me demonstrating the damage. They can clearly see it.
Everyone can see. They're great.
Listen to my finger on the side of my head.
Yeah. So
that's where it is.
So what I was getting at with that question, at least, sorry, I had forgotten for a second.
It was a ooh shiny thing moment.
Could they, with DNA, solve this case now, or is it just too far gone? Like, how far back can they solve cases?
It would not be. No, they wouldn't. There's like a 1 in a million chance that there might be a hair follicle, but then you're going on a 1 in a million chance that you're going to be able to find another hair follicle that's that old that wasn't buried in the ground for a couple of decades, and hope that just happens to be the hair that matches. Everything else would have been overly contaminated by the crime scene investigation of that day because forensics was not a thing they had.
They just tromped through the scene.
Yeah, they just, everybody and their partner would be in there. They would have journalists stomping through there.
Neighbors going, what's up?
Dogs, you name it, it went through that crime scene. So the crime scene would have been completely contaminated. Yeah. And so, no, there's no way. If they had any kind of rudimentary form of forensics in the day, then absolutely it would have. They would have been able, if they could have done even a basic blood splatter analysis, they would have been able to determine at least what the shape of the person behind the axe was.
Like perhaps how tall that person was.
Yes, how tall, how wide. Were they striking at an upward angle? Were they striking at a downward angle? Mrs. Borden would have been almost eye height to Lizzie Borden. And so that did require a different type of a swing versus her father, who she would have been over in the chair. That was a downward swing.
You would think if she was facing her mother and her mother was facing her, and of course everybody can see me doing this right now.
Yep, again, great visuals.
She would have had to almost like side swing. Yep. You would think there would be an angular sort of cut, but when you look at the skull, you see it's hard to tell because her skull was so smashed in one place. You see a basically straight, like this sort of. Straight down as I'm illustrating.
For those of us listening at home, Nikki is gesturing in a direct up and down pattern in front of her face as if holding a hatchet.
Yes. But also the hands should be closer together. Because I learned that from Titanic.
Yeah, it's like but like, if you watch the videos on the Facebook page for the research project, the girls that when they're swinging at at Abby Borden analog, it's like they're swinging at a softball bat because the only way that you can get that kind of momentum would have been from the side. You still could have angled the hatchet weird. I mean, very easily manipulated it. And also keep in mind, she would have been, and again, everyone, those listening at home, I'm gesturing to where a corset would be. She would have been boned. At least once.
What? Sorry, I'm
by this age, Lizzie Borden. No, she would have had a boned corset on at least one level. I mean,
she was 32. Once, at least.
She was unmarried, and she was a good girl. up until the whole possibly murdering her parents and covering it up thing. But that's we're not judging.
If
right?
she murdered her parents, she had sex once. Like,
I think this is a whole nother topic.
No, not at all.
The sexual exploits of Lizzie Borden, part 2. But yeah, so the corset would have possibly maybe assisted almost and acted kind of more like a catapulty thing.
Like you should see Tori right now.
I'm doing this is Madonna.
Some sort of Madonna.
But the corset could have adjusted the trajectory versus having to go with the sidearm, but
yeah, because would you want to try to? Because to do that, you would have to bend your whole, whatever you call this, your torso
to sidearm
to the side.
You have to,
and if you were wearing especially like a whalebone,
it would have been whaleboned, and it would have been probably either just over the breast or just under.
You wouldn't even be able to an inch move your body that far.
Think about where your shoulder blades would hit on a corset, and for those playing along at home,
you can move your shoulders.
Yeah, whoever's worn a Halloween costume and spent the whole night popping your shoulder bones out, popping them scapulas out, and then think about that and lunging forward with that, with the added pressure of the corset pressing back. It would have been, it would not have been inconceivable for her to change that position.
I want to do this with corsets now.
I kind of do too. Anyway, if anyone listening has a lead on pig heads.
I mean, or whatever Mythbusters uses for, like, the model of the
They use ballistics gel, which I do also know how to make. Thank you, undergrad. But ballistic gel would be very difficult to use on this particular type of experiment because of the crumbly nature of it. If you hit, because like I said, it's repeated a couple of times, gets hit over and over again. So think about what happens when you hit Jell-O with a fork a couple of times. It starts to kind of like lose its shape, and it doesn't. So once you chop off
a piece, tofu.
Yeah, once you chop off a hunk of ballistic gel, it's gone, and you don't have that anymore. It severs a little bit more easily. Okay. You gotta have. I mean, if you wrap it around a bone analog, like if you're able to get a decent PVC set,
so how did it
work?
I just had this, like, on the fly question. Like, how did you approach these women? Did you personally approach these women and go, you are quite the stature of Lizzie Borden. Hi, I'm Tori. Would you want to...
Trying to find my actual height requirements here. The majority of them were actually daughters of roller derby friends. I was very involved in the roller derby community in Columbia, Missouri, and so... I would say about 50% came from there, and the other half I went through different classrooms. I went through every anthropology class that they offered, and I stood up in front and said, "Hi, my name's Tori. I was an anthropology student here, and I'm conducting a physiological research study, and I'm looking for people." I think it was, 5'2"? I know she was way shorter than me.
I'm looking it up right now.
That's all I remember.
How tall is Lizzie Borden? She was 5'4". She's like an inch
really
taller than me.
Yeah, I was going to say she's taller than me.
You're so tall.
There are pictures of me standing with, like, the test subjects, and they, like, come up to my shoulder.
You giant!
It looks like I'm working with little children. It doesn't look like I have adults there.
Would you even know how much she weighed? Like, how would you find that?
Where did I find that? I estimated based on current medical research, and I know I have it somewhere. Of course, it's probably on one of the 3 dead laptops that I tried to boot before coming over here.
Oh, it said, oh wow, I just saw something that said Andrew Borden did kill the pigeons, but by wringing their necks.
Yeah, that was the version I'd heard. I hadn't heard the hatchet story. I had heard about the dead pigeons, though. I might be able to...
She was a redhead.
She was?
No, she was no, it says according to her passport, she had light brown hair. There's rumors that she decapitated Abby's tabby kitten.
I hadn't heard that one.
Her niece stated that Lizzie killed the kitten, but they can't validate the story.
And also, Lizzie Borden was a big, mannish woman. What the hell?
I mean, fuck you. None of your business,
right? A giant man.
I just want to know from, like, perspective of killing somebody with an axe, not for, like, oh yeah, how tall and how much did she weigh? Like, her face did have a heavy lower jaw and was described by one newspaper as a face with attributes very common to the region. Oh yeah, there was also a rumor that she committed the murders in the nude, because they didn't find any blood. Although they didn't search her. They didn't look for blood on her at all. That's kind of like a super sexist thing. To be like, oh, that witch, that succubus. She totally committed the murders in the nude. No, I can't find her weight, though. See, this is what I mean by saying it's a rabbit hole. Like, you go to look for one thing, and then you find, like, 1,000 different rumors.
I did find the email I sent to the professors asking if I could come into their classroom, but I did not include the weight.
I don't know. But anyway, she was 5'3". I mean, I'm, like, 140 pounds and 5'3". So based on that, how much do you think she weighed?
I wasn't listening. I was reading.
I said I'm like 140 pounds and 5'3". So based on that, how much do you think she weighed? Because I don't give a shit about people how much I weigh.
She would have been not significantly like 100 pounds heavier than you, but she would have been notably larger.
Like 20 pounds larger
20
at least.
30, okay. Because she didn't lead an active lifestyle. Mm-hmm. She would have done a lot of sitting and sewing, a lot of reading. I mean, yes.
I just raised my hand. Not the sewing, but.
No, but you still have to, like, go outside and do things. Yeah. Lizzie Borden could have stayed inside all day, realistically.
Well, and imagine how restricted your movement would be just wearing what you had. Like, you wouldn't want to do anything.
And especially in that heat and stuff. I mean, in her station, she would have only been allowed to wear, like I said, so few petticoats, and so she would have had to be in some state of duress.
Mm-hmm. This is the problem, Tori. We don't know how to end this podcast. No. Every time we're like, we have this great discussion. No.
Make it simple.
That's what you gotta end it on.